Hello and welcome to the Inspiring Life School podcast. This is your host, Frances Vidakovic, and on this podcast, I'll be sharing with you the most valuable strategies to live your one wildly beautiful and most precious life. Because this is it, my friend. In case you haven't guessed, when it comes to life, there's no rewind or pause button that exists. They say that the way that you spend your days is the way that you spend your life. So my one and only goal here is to help you stop wasting your time, stop holding yourself back in life, stop experiencing non-stop negative mind chatter, stop just dreaming without doing, and start living life fearlessly instead, with more purpose, focus, and intention. I sincerely want you to live life in a way that when you come to the end of it, you know deep down in your heart that you 100% gave it your all, flaws and all. This podcast is not about doing life perfectly. Instead, it is about experiencing and living life with more clarity and courage and truly appreciating this precious adventure that we are so blessed to be on. So if you're with me here today, it's time to stop spinning in circles, get off the hamster wheel for good, put your hands back on the steering wheel of your life, and finally start living life in a way that you won't later regret. With that being said, let's dive on in. Hello, my friend. This is Frances Vidakovic, and you are listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast. And today we are going to go so deep into something that has been really on my mind over the last few weeks, ever since I watched this documentary that I'm recommending that everyone goes out and watches. It is called Navalny. So I'm going to spell it out for you. It's Navalne. So this documentary, which won the Academy Award for Best Documentary this year and also won the BAFTA Award for Best Documentary, details the 2020 assassination attempt of the Russian opposition leader and former presidential candidate. His name is Alexei Navalny. He is my new hero. And in this documentary, it talks about how he was poisoned with a military-grade nerve agent as a result of his quest to really expose all the corruption that is currently happening in Russia under Putin. So I don't want to go too deep. I just want you to go and watch the documentary. But the whole discussion that I want to have today is about the role that we play as humans in this society, in this world, when we see bad stuff happening around us. And do we just sit back and let it happen, or do we do something about it? So I want to share with you here three super powerful quotes that I want you just to really take in for a moment. So the first is by Albert Einstein, who once said, "The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing." And the second is by Edmund Burke, who said, "The only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good people to do nothing." Okay, that's all it takes for evil people to succeed, is for us to just sit back and let it happen. And finally, the third quote is by Ben Feldman, who said, "Doing nothing costs something. Doing nothing costs something. And quite often, doing nothing costs a lot more." So I want to share with you a story that has stuck out in my mind. This happened when I was around 6 years old. So we stepped back in time and I was on a bus with my mum and my little sister. And for some reason, my mum has forgotten this moment, but I remember it so clearly in my brain. We were on a bus and the bus driver must have got into an accident with a car in front of him. So I remember the bus stopped and he got out and he had this exchange of words, really heated words, with the man that was in front of me. And I remember we were sitting right at those front double seats. So we had just a perfect view of what was happening in front of us. And the man, the other driver, actually punched the bus driver and then he speeded off. Okay, so I remember he got the license plate and he came back onto the bus and he said to everyone that was sitting on the bus, and it was a full bus, and he said, "That man literally just punched me. Is there anyone that would be able to support me if I go to the police with this?" Okay, just support the fact that, yes, you guys witnessed him hitting me. And we had all seen him get punched in the face. Okay, and I remember being so distraught because not one person put their hand up to say, "Yes, okay, we will help you." And neither did my mom. Everyone was super quiet. And I remember not long afterwards, we got off our bus stop and it was playing in my mind, as a 6-year-old, why did no one step up to support this man? Why? And I remember asking my mom, I remember thinking, oh, I would go to court. I would go to court to say that I saw this happen, because I did. I literally saw it happen. And then I remember my mom saying, "Oh, well, you don't get involved in other people's business. We just let it be, it's too much trouble." And that was how it was left. And I remember being so annoyed and so feeling outraged that here was something that we could help someone with, and yet we didn't. And even as a 6-year-old, I knew it was really wrong. To see someone do something wrong and to say nothing at all. And it didn't come back to me, I don't think, really until I was at university, when I heard all about the bystander effect. So when I was studying this at university, I was once again outraged. So if you're not familiar with the case, the murder of Kitty Genovese, I think that is how you pronounce her name. So back on March 13 in 1964, so it was many decades ago, Kitty was stabbed, sexually assaulted and murdered while walking home from work at 3 a.m. in Queens, New York. And according to an article in the New York Times, there were 38 witnesses, like watching from the building, watching the stabbings happen, and not one person tried to intervene or even call the police until after the attacker had fled and she passed away. And this was like something that psychology researchers looked into. And what happened there, they later attributed to something that was called the bystander effect, okay? Because there were so many witnesses seeing other people witnessing the same event, they assumed that others would take responsibility and call the police, and therefore they didn't do anything to stop the situation themselves because they thought someone else is going to step in and do it instead, okay? It won't be me doing it. 37 other people watching this event, watching this take place. Surely one person will make the call. And guess what happened? No one did. So I want to bring you back just to consider that quote again by Albert Einstein, who said, "The world is a dangerous place, not because of those who do evil, but because of those who look on and do nothing." So I want you just to think about how you would show up if you saw something terrible happening around you. If you saw a man hit a woman, if you saw a woman hit a child in a way that was way inappropriate, would you say something? Now, I think back to what my mom said that day, many years ago, decades ago, don't get involved in other people's business. But I recognize now that I am a completely different person from my mother, like in lots of different ways, like all humans are different. But for me, like that sense of injustice and like watching it happen, I could not sleep at night to see bad things happen in this world and to not do something about it. If I was on that bus as an adult, yes, I would have supported that man. There is no way that I would have been able to go to bed at night and to know that I could have helped someone and I didn't. And the one big takeaway that I hope that you get after listening to this episode is understanding not just the importance of like saying something when you see something wrong, but knowing that it doesn't have to be on a big grand scale. Like when I watched that documentary and I thought, oh my gosh, like this Alexei is my new hero. He's standing up to the most powerful president in the world, one of the most powerful presidents in the world, and he's risking his life and safety and the safety of his family in order to like bring justice and end corruption in Russia. Like that is an amazing feat. And I know for most of us, like the idea of standing up to someone so powerful is mind-boggling and scary. But then I reminded myself that there's actually so much power in helping others on a smaller scale. For example, if you see a child getting bullied or abused, say something. Like you have the power to like positively impact the direction of one child's life just by saying something as opposed to sitting there and watching it happen. If you see someone being aggressive or abusive or lying or deceptive or racist or sexist, anything, like say something. You have the power to use your voice. So I feel like there's like that ripple effect that happens when we all step up to the plate and say something as opposed to doing nothing when we see wrong happening in this world. I know that this might seem like the most basic, simple message, but I really wanted to record this episode just to keep that in the forefront of your mind. You don't have to save the entire world, okay? That's almost like an impossible feat, but you do have the power, and you always have the power to help one person at a time. And if justice is important to you, like just keep in mind some of the most inspirational leaders in our world, like Martin Luther King Jr., Nelson Mandela, Mother Teresa and Gandhi. Like just like those people were like just one individual that had the power to change the entire world. You and I can do our bit just by helping one person at a time, standing up for them, stepping in and saying something, just using the power of our voice to note when injustice has occurred. Because to be honest, like if injustice occurs to us, like not only do we experience once by the person who like dealt it out to us, but to know that there were people watching it happen and didn't do anything to step in and say something. It's almost like the double whammy. Hurts you twice. It gets you in the gut. Don't let that happen. Okay, that is what I'm encouraging you to do. Step up and stand up for others who need your help. So that is it for today's episode, my friend. I know, like we weren't chatting about personal development stuff or parenting, but ultimately I feel like any conversation that we can have about being a good human that helps us sleep better at night will always hopefully provide value to just at least one person. Like if one person listening today helps someone else and stands up for someone else and says something when they see injustice occurring, that I feel like I've done my good deed for today. So take care, my friend, and I can't wait to catch you on the next episode. Thank you so much for listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast. I really appreciate you allowing me to be a part of your life. If you'd love to stay in touch, please know that you can always find me on Instagram at Frances Vidakovic, or you can visit my website, inspiringmumlife.com, where you can sign up and receive so many amazing freebies that I've created just for you to help you implement all my teachings into practice. There you'll also find all my online courses, resources and programs that I've created to help you uplevel your life in seriously the simplest way possible so that you can ultimately create for yourself a life that feels simpler, lighter, and allows you to show up in a way that you love as your best and most authentic version of yourself. Now remember, this podcast is all about not just dreaming but also doing, because to create true sustainable change in your life, you need to be willing to do things differently. And that's what I'm here to support you to do every single step along the way so that you too can begin to live your one wild and precious life with less stress, less overwhelm, less drama, and instead with zero regrets. Finally, if this podcast resonates with you at all and you appreciate the content, I would absolutely love for you to show your support by leaving me a review on Apple Podcasts. I'm on a mission to help more people wake up to the preciousness of life and to help them live their days with more intention and purpose, and your review will help make this goal of mine possible. Well, once again, thank you so much. I have loved spending this time with you and I look forward to connecting with you again. I'm Frances Vidakovic and you have been listening to the Inspiring Life School podcast.